folks. Welcome to the NSMQ Review Show. We are pleased to come your way this year with the maiden edition of the NSMQ Show. My name is Emmanuel Jivenu, and we are coming to you from the Primetime Studios. The dice has been cast and the countdown is on. We are barely 34 days to the launch of the 2019 edition of the National Science and Maths Quiz. And from now to July, we will be reviewing all the regionals and national contests. And we are live on Facebook as well as YouTube at NSMQ Ghana. Do well to join us and leave your comments, and we will do as much as possible to share them with the world. And the hashtag is NSMQ 2019, hashtag NSMQ Review Show. On the show today, we will be taking a second look at the regional competitions at the three regions in the north as well as Bono Ahafo region. Northern region and Bono Ahafo region, we are looking at them as they were before the regions or two regions were carved out from them. Joining me in studio for the discussion are individuals who rarely need any elaborate introduction. They have been part and parcel with this competition for a very long time and still counting. To my immediate left is Mr. Stephen Yankee. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
And next to Stephen is James William Akampulimba. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And he is the quiz master for the three northern regions as well as Bono Ahafo region. And close to him also is Samuel Ajo.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen, for the show. This is the first time we are meeting, actually.
Yes.
So I think it would be in order to say welcome or Happy New Year to you.
Yes, same to you.
So let's start the conversation going. Stephen, I want to start from you. Were in charge of Bono Ahafo region, Upper East, Upper West, and Northern region. I want to find out from you, how has putting all these competitions together been like?
Well, it was exciting. As it has been over the years, we had some really exciting contests. The experience was good for us, and we've been doing this for some time. So I think all the challenges that we even met on the ground were things that we had anticipated. We've dealt with some of them before. In all, the schools also impressed us this year than before. I'm sure as the conversation goes, we can go into specifics. But generally, the production was good. We like what happened on the ground, and certainly we can improve upon certain things as the years go by.
Absolutely. I'm sure the schools also really put up their A1 games at this year's regionals as well.
Yes, the schools performed very well. In all the regions, the performance was better than in previous years. I think it was the same in Upper West, Upper East, Northern region, BA. The schools performed much better than they performed in 2018. So we can see that they are improving. I think what happened is that they see that the program is progressing.
Absolutely.
So they all want to move along with that progression. So I think that's why they also prepare much better than they did in years past. And so they gave up their best, and we also like what they did.
James, you were the quiz master for these regions I've mentioned earlier on. Do you think the performance this year was up to standard or probably better than the previous year?
For Upper West region, I wouldn't have much to say because it was my first time of moderating the questions over there. But I've known St. Francis Xavier as a school that has been doing well. And so I wasn't surprised when they won their competition. But in general, the performance was satisfactory. Looking at this year's questions as compared to last year, the questions were a bit tougher than last year's one. So for schools to come up with 48 points, 30 points, and 34 points is positive. Yeah. It's very positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get back to the nitty-gritties of the contest that went on up there.
Right.
But Samuel, I want to find out from you, what do you make of the competition from these four regions?
Well, just as Stephen mentioned, you could see there's an improvement from the previous years, because I've been in those regions before, and when you compare those periods with what happened this year, you realize that indeed there's been some improvement. And as he mentioned, the stakes have become very high, and for which all the schools are contributing whatever they have to make sure they make name for themselves. We, as an organization, do well to bring innovations or bring improvements into the competition for which region the schools are also aspiring to get to that level.
Absolutely.
And so when you compare previous years than this year, we'll say that it is better. Okay. We could believe that there'll be much improvement in the coming years.
Absolutely. So, Stephen, let me come to you. In Upper West region, how many contests did we organize over there, and how many schools were we looking at picking to the nationals?
So we had 5 contests in the Upper West region. So the Upper West region contributes 5 schools to the national quota of 135 schools. And at the end of these 5 contests, the winners of these 5 contests qualified to the national championship. In all, there were 24 schools that competed over the 2-day competition. So we had Laura Senior High School, St. Ignatius of Loyola, Girapa Senior High, Queen of Peace Senior High, and St. Francis Xavier. These were the 5 schools that qualified from the Upper West region.
Okay, so looking at their performance at the regional level, do you think they will bring something new to the nationals? Bear in mind that they do not have any seeded school for this year's edition.
Yes, certainly. The schools from the Upper West region, from the regional, some of them did really well. If you look at St. Ignatius of Loyola, many people know them as Lassier Tuolu. That was the name of the school.
What was
Lassier Tuolu. So that's the name of the community that hosts the school, and the name was later changed to St. Ignatius of Loyola Senior High School. They've been qualifying, I think, over the last 2 to 3 years. They've been at the nationals. In fact, the first time they qualified, they beat Francis Xavier in WA. And this year they qualified with 48 points, which was really impressive. They qualified with 48 points. And their side is a team to look out for this year at the nationals. The boys are good. And I'm sure if the balloting also goes well for them, they can progress. Same for Francis Xavier. The boys they are presenting this year, they are equally good. Although at the regionals, they didn't perform as better as Ignatius did. But yes, they are good. It's likely they can also make it beyond 1/8 and make it to quarterfinals. We know Francis Xavier to be a school that has even been to finals before. So we are sure that this year they can make it.
I'm sure my viewers out there would want to find out, how is the quota done for the various regions?
Yeah, so you know the program features 135 schools. Out of this 135, we have 27 schools that are seeded, so they don't participate at the regionals. Once you make it to quarterfinals, you are seeded for the following year's edition. So every year we have 108 schools that we need to select to join these 27 schools, which will give us a total of 135. Now, when we started with the regional competitions, we came up with this quota system in collaboration or in discussions with the sponsors GES. And that is how come some regions have more schools than others, because the quota system is also based on the number of senior high schools in the region. So Upper West region has the least number of senior high schools nationwide. So they have 5 schools they contribute to the national competition. And then we have the highest number of schools coming from Ashanti, because they also have the highest number of senior high schools nationwide. So it's in that ratio that we determine how many schools come from which region.
Thank you for that education. But James, let me come back to you. You have been on stage with all these individuals or the schools that have qualified for the national competition. Which of them do you think really impressed you and we should look out for them?
As Stephen said, St. Ignatius of Loyola SHS, otherwise known as Lassier Tuolu. Notwithstanding the 48 points that they had, they actually displayed good knowledge of the concepts that are involved in the science and mathematics. Laura had 30. They also did the same. They did very, very well. See, sometimes when you look at the marks, like 30 points like this, you will think that the mark is very low. Maybe they made some mistakes, especially with the true or false, and then the speed ratio. Sometimes they don't practice very well. So when they get on stage for the first time, maybe out of anxiety, they want to press the bell to answer any question to show that. So they end up
being penalized,
and then bringing down the marks. But when they are coached very well, I tell you, you see something different at the national level.
And you know, they do not have any rep from this particular region
Yes.
that has been seeded for this year. I'm sure they would be looking forward to making sure that their school is seeded.
Yes.
And that even is a boost for the region. But Samuel, I want to find out from you, do you also think St. Ignatius of Iola, that school, do you think would live up to expectations as Stephen and James have expressed?
Well, I would not be surprised because the first time they entered the competition, I was in the Upper West region.
Okay.
And that was then, they were then called last year Tolo, LASEC for short, and for which they beat Francis Xavier. And there was a hue and cry, I mean, from the supporters of Francis Xavier because it was not in anyone's imagination. I mean, they didn't have that kind of thought that that kind of school, so to speak, would beat them. And in fact, they didn't believe it. So I remember then the following year when they were having the ballot or something like that, Francis Xavier were kind of protesting because they were scared, sort of. I mean, they didn't want to face the situation they faced the previous year. That was the 2017, right? Yeah. 2017. So they were careful and making sure that whatever is done would favor in the sense that they wouldn't have to meet
the so-called creme de la creme schools.
You know, they know the last year to beat them again. So for me, that school is one school who I would say have been very consistent with their performance, and for me, I will not be surprised if they get seeded this year. They are the school that I'm tipping in Upper West. Not necessarily even looking at Xavier, but I'm looking at Loyola to get seeded.
Oh, you don't think Xavier can be seeded?
No, they can be, but you see, judging from the performance, I mean, like I'm saying, they've been consistent. And if, for me, I can safely say that if they should match the two schools together, Loyola will beat Xavier. I mean, that's
wow. That was the same confidence we built last year. That was the same confidence we built last year for St. Francis Xavier, but they came to the national and things didn't really go well for them. But we hope this year the school, St. Ignatius of Loyola, would live up to expectations.
So I haven't seen them. I mean, I didn't see them this year. But then, judging from what the reports we had, I have no doubt in my mind that they could get seeded, and they'll end up beating the so-called big school.
Yeah. So you've heard it from my panelists. Watch out for St. Ignatius of Loyola SHS as they come for the national competition sometime June. Let me come back to you, James, again. So we've reviewed the Upper West region. Can we go to Upper East region? And we know that they have one of the seeded schools in that region. In fact, San Dimas HTS, not SHS. Yeah. They really surprised a lot of us. We really didn't give them that kind of chance to even make it to the 1A stage. But they did. How well is this region prepared for the national?
If you look at the results that we have here, Bolga SHS and Navrongo SHS actually, carrying the light of the Upper East region. The rest, the performance wasn't that good. It wasn't that good at all. Maybe lack of preparation and so on and so forth. But if they really want to come into the national level and do any better, then they will have to prepare very, very well. Yeah. So for the Upper East region, I'm looking at Bolga SHS and Navrongo SHS. I don't know what is happening in Sandema SHS now, SHTS now. So I cannot comment so much on them for now. Yes. Okay,
but once they are one of the seeded schools, I mean, they've set a standard for themselves and they need to live up to expectations. But Stephen, how many schools qualified from this region?
Okay, so we had 27 participating schools. And just to add to what James was saying about the performance, in fact, in Upper East region, half of these schools ended up with less than 10 points as their final scores.
Really?
So you can do the math. There were 27 schools and about half ended with less than 10 points as their final score. So performance there is a little problematic, although some of them were good. As he said, Bolga Senior High School and Navrongo, for me, out of the schools that's qualified, I think these are the only two schools that can go beyond prelims and 1/8.
Okay, but you are not unsure of they progressing to the quarterfinals?
Well, they can progress to quarterfinals. They can progress to quarterfinals. Navrongo, they have a solid team this year, same as Bolga Senior High School. They call them Big Boss.
Yes.
They can also progress to quarterfinals. They are good. I can't say same about the rest. I mean, just like we said for Upper West, we also had some schools we think can make it. For Upper East, it will be the same. These two schools showed that they really have what it takes to make it to quarterfinals this
So
year.
in total, how many schools are we looking at from Upper West?
So in total, we have 5 schools.
Upper East, actually, I should
Yes,
say.
Upper East. So 5 schools in addition to Sandema Senior High Technical School.
Okay.
So what happens in Upper East is that although we are selecting 5 schools, we had more than 5 contests.
Okay.
Now, this was because in previous years, the regional administrator, the regional education office wanted a system whereby not just the school that wins a contest qualifies.
Okay.
They wanted the best schools to qualify from the region.
So more or less like the Clash of the Titans.
Exactly. So what happens is that although we're selecting 5 schools this year, we first had 6 contests.
Okay.
Now, the winners of these 6 contests had not qualified for the national championship yet. These 6 schools went into 2 contests where we balloted 3 schools in each of these 2 contests. Now, the winners of those 2 contests automatically qualified to Accra. And then out of the other losing schools, the 4 losing schools, we ranked their scores, and then we selected 3 to qualify. So that is how come we arrived at the 5 schools to represent the region. So we had Navrongo Senior High School, Bolga Girls, Bolga Senior High School, Boku Senior High Technical School, and Zebila Senior High Technical School. They qualified to represent the region.
Okay, so making a total of 6 schools.
Yes, of 5 plus Sandema
Plus
Technical.
Sandema Technical, Senior High Technical School to make it.
Yeah.
We will be looking forward to see them put up a yeoman's performance at the national level.
Yeah.
And we hope they also progress to at least probably the quarterfinals as well.
Yes, they have what it takes. Navrongo and then Bolga Senior High School. Yeah.
They are carrying the torch of the region.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move to Northern Region. Again, this region also have one seeded school.
Yes.
I remember the likes of Zulera in 2017.
Yes.
And I'm sure last year too, they also put up a very good performance. James, let me start with you because that is your school. I want to find out from you, what's your reaction to the performance from the Northern Region?
Well, it's been quite good, even though it's below expectation. I was, because we have been involved in this competition for some time, you realize that many of the schools that have been qualifying for the national competition have always been repeated, except for some few schools that have fallen out. Yes. And I don't want to talk so much about my school because this one I'm doing a professional job now.
Very well.
So, for the Northern Region, Walwale SHS, and then Nobi School, Northern School of Business, they are the new entrants that I think are going to do
the magic
wonders.
But there's a business school.
Yeah, no, it's a business school, but now science. They are doing science now.
Okay.
It's an old name, so they can't add science to it now. So they are now doing science. So they have science students that they are preparing for this program, and they have been doing well. They have been doing well as well. Because if you look at Tamale Islamic has also been doing well, but for some time now.
There's been
their performance
downside.
has not been very, very impressive. But hey, for this game, it depends on the questions on that day.
Samuel, should we write off the entire region from the competition of surprising anybody at the nationals? Should we?
Well, I wouldn't say so because if my memory serves me right, I think last year was when I think Tamale beat Achimota School, right? I mean, there was a tie break and then they won. So that, I mean, people naturally accept it as a shocker, I mean, for that matter. But Northern Region, for me, I haven't been there in the past and compared to now, even though I see 1 or 2 schools who previously the kind of scores they attain at the end of the contest, it's nothing to write home about.
Okay.
But you look at their scores this year, I mean, it's quite appreciable. A school like Kapon, I mean, those times they're able to make a score less than 10 or just about 10, and they'll be able to qualify for the national championship. But then when you look at their scores this year, I mean, the first, I think they made 28, and then the other contest they made about 28 points. It shows that there's some mark of improvement going on. Other school like Vitin, same on that level as Carpoint, and even though they didn't qualify, they were able to make about 17 points, which is a massive improvement from their previous year. So it is gradual, but the rate at which the region is improving in terms of content, it's very slow as compared to the other regions. And so apart from Tamale Senior High, and if they're not able to beat the so-called schools, I don't really see any school pulling a surprise or making it beyond the 1H stage.
Absolutely. Stephen, so let me come back to you. So from the northern region, how many schools are we looking at coming to the national competition?
Yeah, so we had 8 contests, and it followed the normal system. Once you won, you qualified. So 8 schools qualified to represent the northern region, in addition to Tamale Senior High School, which is already a seeded school. So we had Ghana Senior High School, Tamale, Wale Senior High School, Pond Tamale Senior High School. They qualified for the first time. They beat Tamale Girls. They qualified last year, but they couldn't beat Pond Tamale. So Pond Tamale qualified. Then we had Northern School of Business. And now, interestingly, they beat St. Charles Minor Seminary, which is a really big school in Tamale. To go to St. Charles, then you must be big.
Absolutely.
But St. Charles scored 7. That was their final score.
So that would be one of the disappointing points.
We were shocked at St. Charles' performance.
That was Nobisco that beat them.
Yes.
And
I'm
then, sure they underestimated the opponents going into the competition.
Well, probably. And then Yendi Senior High School also qualified. The state contest was won by Tamale Islamic Science Senior High School. So they beat Kapohin and Business Senior High School. And note the scores, it was Tamale Islamic 25, Kapohin 20, and Business Senior High School 19.
Wow.
But Kapohin came again. So we had a second coming of Kapohin in the last contest, because at the regional level, the minimum number of schools per contest is 3 schools. So where at the balloting, we have, say, 3 or 4 schools, and on the day of competition, only 2 schools show up. Those 2 schools will not compete. What we will do is to have the highest scoring losing school fill in that third slot. So that's how come Kapohin Senior High School came again in the last contest. So we had to organize the 7th contest, and then if nobody lost with a score higher than 20, then Kapohin would come again. So I remember in that contest, the Kapohin teacher was just monitoring other people's scores. When they answer wrongly, he would just be applauding because he didn't want them to at all. I mean, if any school answer wrongly, the way he would clap. And eventually, at the end of the 7th contest, the highest scoring losing school then, apart from Kapohin, was Tia Amadia. Salaga, they had 14. So Kapohin came again, and they beat Tolon Senior High School and Dagbon State, and that's how they also qualified.
I'm sure his club spurred them on to reduce their scores.
Yeah, but generally their performance, like Samuel said, the performance in Northern Region is slow compared to other regions where they are doing really well. It's slow, but they are not doing badly. Last year we had 2 schools qualifying with 8 and 9 points to the nationals. This year the least qualifying score was 15. So at least they progressed from 8 and 9 to 15. So probably next year when we go back, we might have 20 being the least, and then gradually we might be seeing.
I'm sure this is a point we need to drum this home to, especially the old boys and girls of these schools, to go back to their alma mater and help invest in these students. I'm sure if you give them a little bit chance or a little bit boost, they will be able to do much better than they are currently doing. So in total, how many schools are we looking at in that region?
So we are looking at 8 schools from the regionals plus Tamale Senior High School, making 9 from the northern region.
All right. So Stephen, let me come back to you again. Let's look at Bronga Hafo region. How many schools pulled through to the national?
Yeah, so out of the 53 schools that participated in the 3-day regional competition there, we had 13 schools that qualified to represent the region. We had 13 contests over the 3-day period, and those who won their contest qualified. We had Atebubu Senior High, Our Lady of Mount Carmel Girls, Kintampo Senior High, Techiman SHS, Sunyang SHS, Nafana Presby, Boma Senior High School, Drobo SHS, Ekumfiamia SHS.
And those are the schools rolling on your screens now.
Yeah.
The schools that have made it or will be representing Bronga Ahafo region in this year's edition of the National Science and Maths Quiz.
Yes, Presec, Bichim, Brekum SHS, Notre Dame Girls, and Amanting Senior High School. These are the 13 schools that qualified at the end of the Bronga Ahafo regional competition.
And I noticed that there's no seeded school from this particular region.
Yes, it's been like that for some time. Over the last 3 editions, we haven't had a seeded school from BA yet. So we are hoping that this year the story will change for the Bronga Ahafo region.
Okay, James, this is a region that does not have any seeded school in this year's competition.
Yes.
Have we suddenly seen some kind of improvement with respect to the regional competition you had, so that probably this year we would have at least a school that will be seeded for next year's National Science and Maths Quiz?
Yes. In fact, I conducted the contest or the competition for 4 regions.
Yes.
I think Bronga, the regional competition was more of it was vibrant.
Okay.
Very, you could see that the preparations of the schools that were involved in this was so high. It was very high. So if you look at a school like Sunyani SHS, they did very, very well.
Yeah.
They did very, very well. It's not because it was their home, but the way they handled the questions.
And so they had 40 points.
They
In
had
fact,
40
they were in the
points.
same group with
Yes.
Wenchi Methodist Senior High School,
Yes.
Sacred Heart SHS, as well as Goka SHS.
Yes. So Sunyani did very well, as well as the team that beat St. James.
Yeah.
That is Techiman.
Techiman, yeah.
So you will see that Techiman won with what's the mark?
27.
27 points. But even though it's 27 points,
Yeah.
it was a heated contest.
Yeah.
It was a heated one, seriously.
Neck to neck.
Yes, it was a serious contest. So Techiman, we should watch out for Techiman and Sunyani. Then the Notre Dame Girls.
Wow.
Fantastic.
All the 4 regions that are conducted, they had the highest points.
Wow.
50 points.
Wow.
They were very impressive that day. And I wish they will continue to do that up to the national level.
You know, there has been some concerns that the girls' schools really aren't doing too well. And I'm sure it will be the hope of many that they will be able to replicate same performance at the national level. But Samuel, what is your assessment of the region?
Well, just as my other colleagues just mentioned, Bronga Ahafo also, I would say that it's you're seeing some improvement. But I'm quite and have been quite disappointed with St. James Seminary, because this seems to be the star, so to speak, of Bronga Ahafo region. Yes, and they have, whenever they appear on the contest, you could see that these guys know their stuff, and they exude so much confidence, and they're able to deal with the questions such that you see that this is a complete walkover for them. But for the past 2 or 3 years now, their performance keeps dipping. The performance keeps dipping, and I don't know what is happening. I am not surprised that Techiman beat them. I'm not surprised, because the so-called minnows are now also taking up the cloak of the stronger schools. And so for St. James, I'm quite disappointed that they keep slacking. They mentioned Notre Dame girls. I haven't so much love for those girls from last year or so. I'm sure last year I was there, and I just happened to just watch their contest. I was just rooting for them, but unfortunately lost by, I've forgotten the schools who they met. But then they performed so well that you'd want them just to progress and see where they could get to. But unfortunately they were beaten. It is true we've not seen the girls' schools making it to the highest level, with the exception of Wesley girls and then Fantiman girls, who were able to make it to the finals. And Fantiman girls in that year, I think 2013, they were able to beat especially interesting, they met about 3 or 4 boys' schools, very strong schools, so to speak. They were able to beat all of them. They made it to the finals, but when they got to the finals, everyone was practically rooting for them. And they met 2 boys' schools. So naturally, we're all in tune towards them winning the contest, but unfortunately they kind of went off. I don't know whether they were just content to have gotten to the level that they got to, and therefore they went off, which was quite disappointing, even though we knew they were going to make it. So we are hoping that come one day, one of the girls' schools should be able to make it. It's just that there's something that is lacking. I mean, there's something that is lacking that I believe we ought to, our schools we ought to look at it and then see how best way to bring those girls up and tell them, look, you have the level at which you can make it. I mean, somebody was mentioned to me sometime a couple of days back that when you look at the WASC results, especially see
it's always the girls.
The girls who's making
that are
the girl students making girls students making with such excellent grades, but it doesn't replicate at the National Science and Maths, and so which is a worry. But then you see, National Science and Maths has a lot of factors involved. It's not just about answering the question, but there's so many factors that goes into it. So perhaps those are the things that the schools ought to look at and therefore help the girls. And I believe that come one day we should see a girls' school winning the contest.
Okay. We are getting to the tail end of our conversation on the NSMQ review show, but I wouldn't let my guests go without asking them the expectations from these 3 or 4 regions when it comes to the National Science and Maths quiz at the national level. James, or let me start with you, Stephen. What do you think should be the expectations of many of these 4 regions going into the National Science and Maths quiz in June?
Okay, so I'd like to start with the Brong Ahafo region. As James said, schools that I'll be looking out for would be Sunyani Senior High School. The boys this year are really good.
In fact, last year they were also at the competition,
yes,
except that they couldn't progress to the quarterfinals.
Exactly. If they prepare really well, they can make it to quarterfinals and even beyond the quarterfinals. Judging from their performance at the regionals, they have what it takes to make it in this year's competition. Same for the ladies from Notre Dame Girls. They are really good too. Really, really good. That any school that should meet them should prepare really well because the girls are good. And I think it's the same for Techiman. They were really good. Although if you look at their score, 27, you might think that they didn't perform well. But the boys from Techiman Senior High School are good. Yeah. They beat St. James, and St. James is supposed to be one of the best schools in the country.
Yeah. But you see, sometimes too, if the schools get those low scores, it doesn't really mean they are bad.
Yes.
Probably it's a heated one, so they may have shared the points.
Yes. So those 3 schools for me, Techiman Senior High School, Sunyani Senior High School, Notre Dame Girls from BA, I think these schools are schools that we should look out for. For nothing, as we mentioned, all our hopes will have to be on the seeded school, Tamale Senior High School. Judging from the regionals, the 8 schools that qualified, well, in terms of points, then you might say that Ghana Senior High School, Tamale, can do well because they scored 33 points, but really their performance was not one that can take the school to quarterfinals. For Upper East, as we mentioned, the schools did well, but Navrongo Senior High School and Bolga Senior High School are 2 schools that we should look out for. From Upper West also, St. Ignatius of Loyola. What a name. St. Ignatius of Loyola.
It's actually a mouthful.
Yes, it's a mouthful. St. Ignatius of Loyola or Lasietuolo.
I think that would do.
Yeah, although they changed their name, their uniform says Lasietuolo. The Lasie is on the uniform, but they say they changed the name. So we should look out for Lasie, and then for Francis Xavier, there are 2 schools that can make it from these regions.
Well, what about you, James? What should be the expectations for many?
Oh, that is so different from what Stephen has said. But what I would say is that no school should be written down. Because we have a different platform altogether. The regional level platform is different from the national level.
Absolutely.
You are now going to be exposed to a larger crowd. Cameras are before you. And the audience also different.
And in
different
fact, let's say the entire nation is watching you.
So it's different. And the questions for me may not be the same. When you go into a contest, you are going in to answer questions, not to face it. It's not a boxing match. It is the questions you answer. It's the questions that you answer that fetches you the marks. So I wish all the schools well, but I believe that for the names of those schools that we have mentioned that they are likely to perform, it's not 100%. They can disappoint us. And those that we have not mentioned their names are the ones that are...
We are just using those performances as a yardstick.
So that's all what I would say. So I will not pinpoint 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 schools to perform, but I'm giving a general view of it, that all those who have qualified have a chance to go through.
Okay. What about you, Samuel?
Yes, I would safely say, as I indicated in my earlier submission, that I vouch for last year to Ignatius of Loyola
Yes.
to make a mark on the competition. I'm also looking at, just as Stephen mentioned, Notre Dame girls, Sunyani, and I hope that the Chiman would take something from what they did at the regional level by beating St. James, because many a time in the past they've to do well at the regions. When they get to the nationals, then they are found wanting. But I want to believe that they will take something from what they did. Big Boss, I mean, it's been the same old story as the previous years, always qualifying, and then Navrongo as well. But in that, the only school that have been quite disappointed with Notre Dame Seminary. I mean, they used to be more or less a stalwart in that region when it comes to science and maths quiz. But for last year, they were beaten, I think, at the prelims. They beat at the prelims, and it was quite amazing that they lost there. And you don't know what's happening. You know what's happening. So, for those schools that have mentioned, I think that they should be able to make a mark. And then Northern region, Tamale Senior High. Apart from that, I don't think that anyone can go beyond that level.
I mean, we are barely left with 34 days to the beginning of the competition, and the competition will judge for itself, and we'll see how the schools would perform. This is where we wrap up on the show. It has been an exciting one, and we hope you enjoyed it as well. 34 days we are left to the National Science and Maths Quiz launch, and I hope you will make a point to join us at the University of Ghana for all the competition, from preliminaries to 1/8, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and the grand finale. I want to say a very big thank you to my panelists, starting from Mr. Stephen Yankee, here with Prime Time, as well as the coordinator for the 3 regions in the north and Bronga Half region. Thank you very much for coming on the show. James William Akampulimba. I hope I had it right.
Perfect.
He is the quiz master for the 4 regions we just reviewed. Thank you very much for appearing on the show. And finally to Samuel Ajo, and he is with Primetime Limited. And thank you, sir, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Viewers, this is where we draw the curtains on today's edition or episode of the NSMQ Review Show. Remember that this show airs every Wednesday and Saturdays on our various social media platforms on Facebook and YouTube. We are at NSMQ Ghana. We are also very much active on Instagram. So do well to follow all the episodes we will be uploading on our social media platform, and do well to leave a comment, and we will do as much as possible to share them with the entire world. Next time when we meet, we will be taking a second look at the school's performance from Central Region, Volta Region, and Eastern Region. I hope you wouldn't miss it for anything. Thank you once again, and bye-bye.